Or you could have the City Rail Link. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Alfred Naro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to take the call on this budget speech of 2013. Mr. Speaker, I just want to declare that the budget of 2013 delivers over $480 million for our Pacifica families and communities. Mr. Speaker, what I am quite proud of is that our Pacifica communities know that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. They work harder for themselves and also for their communities as well. And our story is not just a migration story, it's actually now a Kiwi story. Mr. Speaker, what I'm actually really proud about, and we talk about the facts about the landscape that's changing in our communities, and that is this. Our Pacifica communities are now seeing that the national government is a government of choice. That's right. And here's the simple facts. When we look at the number of Pacifica MPs that are in Parliament, there are 5. 2 for Labour, 1 for New Zealand First, Ms. Asanati Lolitele over there, Mrs., and 2 for National. So the landscaping is changing. And Mr. Speaker, I want to acknowledge Mr. Sewell Williams when he said this, that the Labour government needs to be careful about the decisions that it makes that will impact the choices of the Pacifica community. He went on record last year as saying that on 531 PI on the radio, and he declared this: some of those choices may impact up to 30% of those Pacifica votes. Why, Mr. Speaker? Because the Pacifica community are saying this. Actually, this national government is now a national government of choice for our Pacifica communities. I want to quote this, Mr. Speaker. I was actually at the launch of the Salvation Army, which wrote a report. That's right. He wrote a report that said this: more than churches, rugby and festivals. What I agree with in parts of this report, and I know this, that Mr. Sewell was there. Unfortunately, he left a little bit earlier, so he couldn't actually speak, but I got to speak on this. And what it actually said, Mr. Speaker, was this. It actually talked about the fact is it's time to serve as a challenge these issues to our national and local leaders and to the Pacifica community. Mr. Speaker, what it's actually saying is this: it's time for us not just to be able to blame government, but actually take some responsibility as well. It's a shared responsibility that we need to take. And that's what this government is doing, Mr. Speaker. $480 million that's benefiting our Pacifica communities. Mr. Speaker, Sir Papa Tom Davis said this, and I quote his speech: whatever walk of life you choose, pursuing your dreams will bring personal satisfaction that you are making the world a better place. Your conclusions may be challenged along the way. Therefore, it is important that you do all you can to ensure that decisions that you make are the right ones. Mr. Speaker, I want to frame this up. My budget speech for our Pacifica community is simply this: our Pacifica community is not a problem to be fixed in society. That's not what this budget says. This budget says this: that our Pacifica community are in pursuit of a potential to be realised and a dream to be fulfilled. This is the government of aspiration. And these are the things that we're doing. This 2013 budget speech supports these aspirations through improving access to quality education and training, provision of more choices in health, housing and social services, affordable insulated housing and jobs that provide them with good incomes and propel them along with their chosen career pathways. $480 million, Mr. Speaker, towards our Pacifica community. So I want to focus my speech on 5 key areas: housing, social development, welfare reform, health and education. So let's take housing. It's the topical issue of the moment. The housing budget in 2013 delivers $100 million over 3 years into the Warm Up New Zealand Healthy Homes program. This will target low-income households for home insulation, particularly those families with children and with high health needs, Mr. Speaker. It is expected to insulate around not 10, not 20, not 30, not even 40, but 46,000 homes, Mr. Speaker. 46,000 homes insulated. The Warm Up New Zealand Healthy Homes program will provide real health benefits to our Pacifica communities. Let's take education. That's an important topic, Mr. Speaker. In Education Budget 2013, we're investing $173 million for early childhood education, of which $41.3 million will support participation, especially for vulnerable children. 98% ECE participation by 2016. Mr. Speaker, last Friday, and I'm sad that the member for Mangere is gone, but we were in Mangere with the Prime Minister, and we went out to one of the ECEs, the Nukutukulia Language Nest. That's right, just off Kirkbride Road, and there we were. Mr. Speaker, in 1988, they'd formed this trust. They saw the need for early childhood education, the languages coming together. By 1998, they'd formed their first ECE. I can say this, Mr. Speaker, by 2008, they'd had a grant of $1.1 million that allowed them to have a purpose-built ECE facility. Marina Vaha, who's working there, Mr. Speaker, they not only have 50 children that are there, plus a waiting list, but their ERA report has shown they have excelled in all areas of language, of literacy, and of numeracy using the Te Whariki program, Mr. Speaker. This is a great program. Mr. Speaker, they were so excited to have the Prime Minister present there. So that this was again affirming the fact, the results that they had, that the leader of this country was present there, and they began to tell them about all the wonderful things they are doing, home-based school programs. The community was out there at large, in South Auckland, in Māngere, in the Pacifica community. The Prime Minister was mobbed by the little kids, Mr. Speaker, but most importantly, does it make the boat go faster? Is education improving for our Pacifica children? Yes, it is, Mr. Speaker, absolutely. Mr. Speaker, we know also too, for Māori Pacific trades training, there's an extra $43 million. With finally another $5.9 million will be targeted for new mentoring programs to help vulnerable students achieve NTA Level 2. Mr. Speaker, again, I'm sorry that the member across the way from Māngere has left, because I too was with him at the MIT graduation service, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, a member doesn't need to raise the point of order. Let me just, you cannot, a member cannot refer to the absence of another member from the chamber. I know it was not intentional, but it was sloppy. It was sloppy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that there wasn't intentional, Mr. Speaker. I just want to acknowledge my fellow colleague. Mr. Speaker, I was at the graduation service, and I know that Leo Asanatu Taylor was there too, and 300 Pacifica students, everything from diplomas to degrees to masters were there. They were celebrating their success in education. Mr. Speaker, they got up, they were proud. Mr. Speaker, they were also telling the rest of the community that through education, through the work that we're doing, through the scholarships and the funds that we're providing, Mr. Speaker, they were proud to receive their awards for the hard work that they had achieved, Mr. Speaker. 300 students, but we don't hear the other side talking about that. Why, Mr. Speaker? Because I tell you this. At that graduation, one of the leaders of the community got up and said this: it's about time we start talking about the successes for our community and for our people, rather than the other people talking about all the things that go wrong. Why, Mr. Speaker? Like I said, our Pacifica community is not a problem to be fixed, but a potential to be realised. We realise that. Mr. Speaker, again, here's another issue. Last Friday, we went out into the Māngere community again. We went to Strive, Mr. Speaker, Ngā Tapawai Community Centre, youth programs, mainly Pacifica students. What did they do? They welcomed the Prime Minister into that present place, and this is what they said. Sharon Davis was there, Bill Peace was there, and this is what they said: Mr. Prime Minister, we have a program, and it's called the Key Program. The Prime Minister stopped for a moment, and they said it's a key program. And on that program, Mr. Speaker, they said the reason why we've called it the key program, because it represents you, Prime Minister, for the successes that you have made, the aspirations that you've given to us. Mr. Prime Minister, that program has had success for the youth and young people of our community as well. Mr. Speaker, I could go on and on. I won't. It's a great budget. It's a great budget, Mr. Speaker, that's surely benefiting our Pacifica community. I commend this budget to the House.
Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to be able to offer some thoughts on the budget, and if the rhetoric matched the reality, then